India has now been in lockdown for more than a month, and during this period, employees, whether they're in the private sector, whether they're in the government sector, have been working from home. What are the kind of trends that have emerged over this past 1 month? How is this going for employees, for corporates? Is productivity up? Is it down? IT bellwether TCS has announced that even after the pandemic is over, 75% of their employees will continue to work from home. On the news track, we've set up the big productivity brainstorm, and I want to introduce a fantastic panel of some of the sharpest minds who are joining us to talk about whether productivity is up or down and whether work from home can be the new normal. Joining us on this broadcast, N. Ganpati Subramaniam, Chief Operating Officer of Tata Consultancy Services from Bengaluru, a titan in the IT sector. Everyone who's passed through TCS calls him NGS. So NGS, welcome to this broadcast. Great to have you with us. Manish Sabarwal is the chairperson and founder of Teamly Services, one of India's foremost human resources companies, very sharp insights on everything that's on in corporate India. For a perspective of how the country's biggest employer, the government of India, has been functioning during this lockdown, I'm joined by Parameshwaram Iyer, Secretary in the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation, and he's been closely involved with how the Modi government has been dealing with this lockdown. All the way from the Harvard Business School in Boston, I'm joined by Professor Prithviraj Chaudhary. He is the Lumri Family Associate Professor of Business Administration in the Technology and Operations Management Unit at the Harvard Business School. And Suman Gopalan joins us, Chief Human Resources Officer at Freshworks Incorporated. I want to show you first the kind of research that's coming out and the kind of anecdotal evidence we're picking up about whether people like being home. Are they getting used to being home? Would they rather just stay at home and not have to go to office? Or are they just tearing their hair apart with frustration and now desperate to get back to their cubicle? Take a look at this report and then we kickstart this interesting discussion.
With the coronavirus crisis and the lockdown, work from home is the mantra for companies worldwide. Indian companies, particularly in the IT sector, have eased into remote working in the last few weeks, leading to questions over whether our workforce can now work from home. Tata Consultancy Services, with a workforce of 4.48 lakh employees globally, is now looking to discard its 20-year-old operating model to the new in thing, working from home. By 2025, TCS will ensure that 75% of its workforce works from home, over the current average of 20%. The IT giant is prepping for a 25-25 model, which means lesser office space required and lesser infrastructure. TCS could perhaps be the first of many companies mulling remote working.
Work from home benefits not just the employees but the organizations, like gaining flexibility to managing time, avoid long commute, and exercise positive work-life balance. Is it easy? Absolutely, it's not easy. Is it doable? I think all of us are learning.
In our own conversations with business leaders and others, I think these organizations have actually adapted quite well. Wherever there is a work from home protocol possible, I think people have adapted quite well and productivity levels are pretty good.
For companies, work from home has resulted in lower attrition and higher productivity. But the downside, lesser connect with employees and a lack of direct supervision of the workforce.
Has work from home worked for everybody? Well, it works for some industries and it doesn't work for some industries. There's this huge scramble to procure laptops. And to get people to work from home. So those are the industries where it can work, and there are many industries it can't work, and many industries aren't even working, so it's a moot point.
Work from home has both positives and also some challenges. Positives in the sense that it saves a lot of time commuting, airfares, hotel fares, and for 1 hour meeting to spend 1.5 days or rather 2 days to go and come. Here from your home, you can be concise, you can do your work very productively, even the meetings, seminars, webinars.
For employees, while time and money isn't wasted in long commute to office, work from home means no work and life balance and challenges of lack of infrastructure at homes. As the coronavirus crisis could perhaps change how we work forever, the question remains if remote working is viable in India. Bureau Report, India Today.
So will work from home be the new normal? And how is work from home going for employees and for corporates and for government? Joining us on this virtual brainstorm, N. Ganpati Subramaniam, Chief Operating Officer of one of India's largest companies, Tata Consultancy Services; Manish Sabharwal, Chairperson and Founder of Teamly Services; Parameshwaran Iyer, Secretary in the Government of India in the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation. Prithviraj Chauhan is a professor at the Harvard Business School, where he's been studying productivity during this lockdown. And Suman Gopalan runs the Human Resource Department at Freshworks. So I want to go across to N. Ganpati Subramaniam first. Tata Consultancy has announced that even once this lockdown is over, you want 75% of your employees to work from home. Mr. Ganpati Subramaniam, why is it that TCS has taken this decision? And are you getting a sense that employees are happy with this decision? What's in your mind when you execute this decision?
Good evening, Rahul, and to you and your viewers. We have enabled, as a part of work from home, close to about 415,000 of our employees. Over the last about 3-4 weeks, whatever we have done, it seems to be working for us. Our customers are happy, our employees are happy, and we are seeing that all our service levels that we have with our customers, we have been able to meet. We have been able to take on more volumes. And overall, in pockets, we observed that we could see better throughput, better productivity, and so on, so on. And in a way that, it is delivering resilience and delivery innovation for our clients. So I think that, in the context of business continuity and overall operations improvement, work from home, or what we call as secured borderless workspaces, is going to be an integral part of our operating model.
But you have very sensitive clients in dozens of countries. You have people who are trusting you with their data. Now somebody is sitting at home. When you're in a corporate space, Mr. Subramaniam, you can monitor very closely. The IT team can, who's accessing what. Are they being safe? Are they not being safe? When somebody is at home, somebody could be careless, and that could end up in a big blowback. So how are you looking at all these concerns, and why are you confident that work from home can be a sustainable model? You're saying employees are liking it right now. That's only because it's been a month. Lock them up for a year at home, and then who knows whether they'll be happy about being home or itching to get back to a cubicle.
And I think, as a first step, what we need to do was we need to look at how do we provide access and connectivity to our people in a similar secured environment. And so the investments that we made in digital and Enterprise Agile 2020 vision, all of that formed a solid foundation. We leveraged all those great digital work that we have done to enable what we call as secured borderless workspaces. Having established those connectivity options, we had to run it past our clients, because all the contracts that we have with our clients have to be executed from approved facilities. So we had to walk through almost 1,000 plus of our clients to actually say that, look, how we are going to be enabling remote working, how it is secured, and how people can actually provide privacy and security connections, at least in the same manner in which, we are operating from an approved TCS facility. So that took some time, but then, once we explained the secured borderless workspace options to our customers, approvals came, and then we could quickly enable the remote working to our employees. The first thing that we have to do is that we need to make sure that we trust our employees unless they are proven otherwise, right? I think that has really worked for us. People, what we find is in this, people are become a lot more collaborative, number one. people have started to take security, privacy issues a lot more seriously. And they've also understood what is important for customers, what is important for TCS, what is the reputation risks involved. All that means that we had to put in, tweak our digitized delivery processes, make sure that we keep connected with them. We are able to leverage both certain cognitive automation and security tools that we put in place to monitor that there are no, let's say, cyber risks associated with working. All that has to be done, in a controlled and non-intrusive manner. And above all, I think we also need to respect their personal time. And all that means that, overall, we find that employee morale is high in these last 4 weeks. I agree that, if people have to continue to work for a longer period of time, then there may be certain issues of mental fatigue and lack of connectivity will come. So we'll have to manage that. But, net, what I find is that it is going to become an integral part of our operating model. We are...
So one of India's largest companies saying that they believe that work from home is here to stay. Parmeshwaram Iyer, can you give us a sense of how work from home has been for government employees who've been now, just over the last few days, many people have been asked to come to office, maintain social distancing, but for the first several weeks, large part of government workforce was also work from home. How do you cope up with the kind of systems a TCS is able to put in place? How productive were government employees during the lockdown, in your view, sir?
Yeah, hi, Rahul. And, a very good question. Actually, it's been quite a smooth transition all around, as far as I'm concerned. And I think that's the case in most government offices. So, we were actually quite well prepared in the Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation, because we had been functioning in many ways virtually for the last 3 or 4 years. Ever since the Modi government came in, they encouraged strongly what we call e-office, so the movement of files electronically. And 3.5 years ago, we were basically, we had very few paper files. We also did a lot of virtual capacity building with the state governments during the scaling up of capacity building and behavior change during the Swachh Bharat campaign. So in many ways, we were quite equipped, with the use of technology. Coming to the lockdown, actually, as they say, never let a crisis go to waste. So people have laptops, officers, our consultant teams, they're working from home. We've used different technologies to connect. And actually, many meetings have become more efficient. People have started speaking less, they're getting to the point. And all the teams, whether it's the Jal Jeevan Mission team or the Swachh Bharat team connecting with state governments, they're also getting used to this. It took a little bit of getting used to in some states, but now all the regular programs, the annual implementation program, the planning ahead, this has been a fantastic opportunity to do a lot of housekeeping, to clean up the MIS. So there's a lot of focused effort, a lot of commuting time has been saved. Now, I think, you can never really substitute for face-to-face meetings and traveling to states, but I think we are going to get used to the new normal very soon, which is working virtually. I think a lot of flexi time will come in the future.
And I don't say this, Mr. Iyer, with any disrespect, but there are elements in government who are known to be unproductive even when they're in office and you supposedly have their boss nearby. How are you keeping an eye on employee productivity? And I know that they're very hardworking bureaucrats as well, but there's a certain section of government officials who aren't necessarily quite as hardworking, not always plugged in. How do you know that they're working? How are you keeping an eye on that?
Yeah, I think overall, everyone has sort of risen to the challenge, Rahul. These are unprecedented times, and I think people have really risen to it. And in that sense, all the work which we normally do has gone on very smoothly, whether it's getting financial sanctions issued at the end of the financial year. So we're very confident that almost the entire team is functioning as one unit. And in fact, in many cases, we are finding that a lot of thinking has gone on, a lot of strategizing has gone on. We do have a skeleton team because, I'm also fulfilling another role in the Empowered Group on supply chain and logistics. So we have a few people who still come to office, including myself, and we sit there, we practice social distancing. We are getting used to functioning in this way. But for the most part, it is virtual. And whether you're at home or in office, I think this is going to become the new normal going forward.
So you're saying it might be in some senses the new normal for government as well. Manish Sabharwal, what are the pan-industry trends you're picking up? As somebody who's so closely involved with so many different companies, do you think net productivity during the lockdown is up or is productivity down in your view?
Well, I think we are all in the same storm, but we are all in very different boats. I think the work from home has exposed the class system, right? 60% of my graduates can work from home, but only 10% of my non-graduates can work from home. So I think that if you work with your mind, you can work from home, but if you work with your hands and legs, you can't. So I think at one level, work from home is great for the cognitive elite or people who use their minds, but it's really, really difficult for many people. And at a certain level, this kind of lockdown helps people like us or makes life for us. And also with cognitive workers, I know PCS and Mr. Iyer mentioned about how it's working. I think working from home has provided continuity. The jury is still out on whether it will provide productivity. I think there was a lag of projects, there was a pipeline, and there are many sort of early results of people who are saying that yes, it had provided continuity. Andrew Carnegie was once asked how many people work at US Steel, and he said about half. And I think there are many people in corporate India who are now saying that about half our people are quite productive, and if some people are honest, they should apply for leave. So while I do think that digitization or video conferencing has been brought from 2030 to 2020 in 1 month, I'm not sure that there's a new normal of less than 5, 10, 15% of people working from home once you can get back.
Okay, I want a sense from Prithviraj Chaudhary, professor at the Harvard Business School, about what's happening globally. Manish makes an important point that we're seeing continuity is not certain about productivity. You're doing pan-globe studies right now. What is the data globally showing you? During the lockdown, half of humanity is locked down. Is productivity up in your view or down, Professor?
So hi, Rahul. Very nice to be here. So I've been studying remote work for several years now, even prior to the lockdown. And the form of remote work that I'm most excited about is something I call work from anywhere. So let me briefly talk about that. So it's not only working from home, but in work from anywhere, the worker gets to choose where to live. And so at a very high level, why is that good? It's good for companies in 2 ways. So the most obvious way is if you allow your workers to work from anywhere or even work from home, you don't need a lot of expensive real estate. And that's a big deal, especially if you are located in a hub like Silicon Valley, or I would imagine even Mumbai. But we have a gentleman from TCS on the panel. So I would say it's also very important for service companies in India, which rely on the H-1B program, because we all know what's happening with the H-1B program and the uncertainty. And I'd like to point out that it's not only the H-1B approvals, which is based on a lottery, and there are only 85,000 given every year, but there's also been a very steady increase in the denials for H-1B extensions. So it's gone up from 5% in 2016 to about 20% the last time I saw the data. So that's why it's good for companies to think about work from anywhere. Why is it good for employees? So in my research, what I found out is people tend to move to smaller towns. So in the US, there is a program called Tulsa Remote, which is a small town in Oklahoma in the middle of America, which is encouraging people to move and work remotely. And so the data I looked at in my research with the US Patent Office, which allowed people to work from anywhere, the salaries were not cut. So people moved to cheaper to live locations and had more money in the pocket. So the other 2 things I'll point out based on whether this will become a new normal or not is you will need to redefine and establish new organizational processes. So you cannot just take the physical company and transplant it in a virtual world. So the first thing you need to do is how to measure productivity. We need very objective measures of productivity that can be pinpointed and avoid any slackers. The second thing is you need to redefine how communication happens. So as humans, we are very, very keen to have an immediate answer to our questions. But in the virtual world, especially pan-globally, people are across time zones. So you have to be patient and sometimes work on asynchronous communication, such as Slack. And the third thing, the most important thing is you need to make sure that your virtual workers are getting socialized online. And there are several ways to do it, which I can talk in more detail later. But you need to establish some virtual water coolers for people to mingle.
We'll build on that. Yeah. What can be a virtual water cooler? We'll build on that. But Suman Gopalan, this is also potentially a game changer for women, because traditionally, especially after having babies for a while, women have very often had to stay away from the workforce. Now, if everybody is home, does it, in your view, substantially increase the possibility of women returning to work much faster? How has work from home been in your experience so far?
Hi, Rahul. First of all, thank you for having me on the show. It's a pleasure being here. So, two questions. When we go to work from home, or as Dr. Prithviraj said, work from anywhere, I think it dramatically increases our chances of attracting talent, different kinds of talent, which otherwise we won't be able to. Right from whether it is for commute reasons, whether it is for office timing reasons, there are a number of reasons why we are unable to attract a big chunk of talent, which otherwise we can if we start working from remote or working from anywhere. So to your point, I do think it can attract a lot more women to come back to the workplace, especially those with dual careers, and they have trailing spouses, and therefore location becomes the challenge oftentimes. Or when you have caregiving and you aren't able to stick to necessarily a particular time, I just think it opens up a whole host of possibilities in terms of being able to attract different kinds of talent when you have flexibility in workplace and work timings. To your point, how is it working for us? I think we come from a SaaS industry, and by nature of that industry, all of our business and our product happens on the cloud and happens virtually. So it was easier for us in our context to start working from home and going remote. And I don't think we've lost productivity in that sense. But going back to the point earlier, there is a lot of context that happens in an office. And especially in a startup environment when we aren't as established in our processes as perhaps a TCS is, there's a lot of context that happens in water cooler conversations, in a whiteboarding session in the office. Our challenge is how can you recreate some of those experiences while everybody is working virtually? And I think we've gotten very creative about doing that. And I think the situation is forcing us to look at a number of ways in which we can do all of this, but do it virtually. And so I think it will become a new normal in many shapes and forms going forward.